Well, I'm Neil Grover. I'm a percussionist from Boston, Massachusetts. I played with the Boston Pops for over 42 years. I played with a lot of other groups as well, the Boston Ballet Orchestra. I was assistant timpanist, percussion, and generally freelancing around the Boston area. I did teach. I was the head of the percussion department at both the Boston Conservatory of Music and UMass Lowell for many years. I've written a few books, and of course I started Grover Pro Percussion. I was very fortunate to study with Vic Firth at New England Conservatory. I'm a graduate. I graduated with honors in 1977. When I was in school, I actually was playing a lot professionally. I joined the union while I was in school, and I played the opera. I played in Boston. I played Chorus Line, Broadway show. I mean, in those days, if you played well, there seemed to be plenty of work around, whether it was the Ice Capades or the circus or a wedding. Live music was everywhere. The company started in 1980. I was really experimenting in 1979, but the official start of the company was 1980, which makes next year very exciting, the 45th anniversary of the company. Now, I didn't start out wanting to create a percussion company. I had no thoughts of that at all. I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to teach a little bit. But what happened was, I was playing with the Boston Symphony for many years as extra percussion. And I went in, my teacher Vic Firth was playing timpani, of course, and we were playing Scheherazade, and it has a beautiful triangle part. And of course, they handed me the triangle, and it was an old Leedy triangle. And I hit it, and immediately I said, "What? This is the most beautiful triangle I've ever heard." I know it might sound silly that a triangle can sound beautiful, but it sounded like a magnificent cymbal with beautiful overtones. And I asked Vic about it, and he said, "Well, that's an old Leedy triangle." Leedy was an old drum company that made a lot of great percussion. He said he's never heard one like it. And I said, "Well, why does it sound so good?" And nobody seemed to know. So at that time, I had a friend from high school who was studying at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And I went to go see him because he was pretty smart. And I brought the triangle between rehearsals, and he was an amateur violinist. I said, "Can you help me understand why this sounds better than any other triangle I've heard?" He connected me with the professor in charge of the acoustics and vibrations lab, who happened to be an amateur flute player. And I went to his office, explained who I was playing with the Boston Symphony at the time, and I'm curious about the triangle, why this one triangle sounded so good. Well, he was intrigued by that, and he hooked me up with a graduate student who was looking for a project, and we basically reverse engineered it. They told me what the alloy was, the hardness, how it was bent, the temperature, and they handed it to me, and now I'm thinking, now what do I do with it? So I went to go see an old blacksmith in Boston. There was still blacksmiths around. And I showed it to him, and I showed him the triangle. I said, "Can you make one like this?" He said, "Sure, come back in a week." So I go back in a week, and he handed me a triangle. And I picked it up, and I hit it, and it sounded identical to that beautiful Leedy triangle. I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing." He says, "Give me $20, it's yours." So I handed him $20. And I went back to orchestra rehearsal, but this time in rehearsal, I didn't use the old Leedy, I used the triangle, the copy. And I hit it, and I'm playing it, and Arthur Press, who was the assistant timpanist time, came, he said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, it's a copy of the Leedy." He says, "Well, I want one." I said, "Well, he said, "Come on, can you get me?" "All right, give me $20. So I went back, $20. I didn't think about I should be making a profit. So I got another one, and a couple of other players in town started bugging me for a triangle. All right, I went back, I had 5 more made. And then one day I get a call from a store saying, "We hear you're in the triangle business." And I said, "No, I am not." They said, "Well, you are now, we want a dozen." So I went back, I had a dozen made, and instead of charging $20, I charged $25. I think I make $5 a triangle. To make a long story short, this was right around 1980. In 1982, I had heard about this percussion convention that was pretty new called PASIC. It was in Indianapolis that year. I said, and they had booths for exhibitors. So I said, well, maybe I'll bring some triangles and see if I could sell them. So I brought it like 24 triangles, which would be enough to make me enough money to pay for my ticket there and back. I figured, okay, hopefully I can sell all of these. It was a 3-day event, and I sold them all in an hour. So then, well, there's something here. There's other players that recognize a good sounding triangle and want it. So at that point I decided maybe I should create a small company making triangles. Then we added tambourines and a bunch of other products. And it took me about 10 years before I realized I'm actually in business. That it was almost like a small Chihuahua I took for a walk, became a big dog dragging me through the street whether I wanted to be going or not. And it's been quite a journey. 2019, I was very fortunate to find new owners of the company, RBI Music, the owners of Toka and Boomwhackers, because I was getting to the point where I wanted to kick back a little bit, not work so hard. And they've turned out to be terrific shepherds to take what I built and my team has built over the years forward into the future. Hopefully it will outlive my lifespan and go on for a long time.